separate systems in here, domestic and processed water. All the copper lines you see inside here, that's your domestic. That feeds your mixing valve, your eye wash station, your shower, your sink, and your hot water tank that's in the other room. Right, so this is your shut off for the domestic water. You unspin that cap, and then you'll have your water key. Quarter turn on, quarter turn off. Inside here, you have another shut off. So it's probably be a little bit easier to access. So this is your main shut off for inside the building. Right? It's going to come up into what's called a double check valve, which is this brass apparatus here. It needs to be, we will be testing it before the job is completed. It needs to be tested annually to make sure it's operating properly. So you'll have to find a local plumber in the area that comes up and has their backflow prevention ticket. So this basically prevents any type of back siphoning of anything that happens from the sink, the hot water tank. You're not pulling used water into your system. So anytime there's a siphon, these two check valves will close, and then it'll draw air. Like it won't actually pull basically used water into the system. So that's your double check valve. There's two isolation valves on it. The person that comes does the testing will know how to operate it and do the tests. Water comes up. You got another valve here. This is your shut off for the hose bib, which that's just there for convenience. Your hose bib is a frost free. So what it does is the seat for the shut off is back inside the warm part of the building. So you turn your stem in, it shuts off back here, so you never have frozen water inside your hose bib. Okay, so that's your shut off for your hose bib in case there is ever an issue with that. Carry on up. Got a T here. This feeds cold water into your mixing valve. Okay, this is your mixing valve. This will be locked once it's set in operation. You want it to be in the green. That's your normal operating temperature, so you're not scalding yourself. You're not flushing with super cold water and your body goes into a defense. So cold water, hot water, mixed water. Okay, the mixed water comes up, obviously feeds your eye wash and your shower. This will be locked, so once it's set, no one can tamper with it. Carry on through, and in the other building, or in the other portion of the building, you got your hot water tank. The reason the hot water tank is so large, you need to have a certain amount of capacity by WPCIB regulations to actually have this thing operate. You need to have a certain amount of tempered water. So while we're in here, might as well go over this. This is part of your process piping. This is your first sample port. So this is where you're going to take your raw water or your well water samples. It's from here. Comes through. You have your chlorine injection. Then it carries on to the other room. You have another sample port just downstream of this one. So that's it. We're in here. You have your isolation valves for any type of maintenance you need to do on that. But like I said, you should never have to actually operate any of that. So just to continue on with the domestic, you have your cold water in. This feeds your hot water tank. We put in a tap here for a hose bib for wash downs, whatever you need. Two isolation valves, standard hose bib operation. Stores your hot water. Hot water comes up here. Right now I have this isolated because we have that little leak there that I have to repair. Now you've got hot and cold water to where your sink is going to be. Underneath the sink, you've got two more isolation valves, standard just like any household. Shut those off, isolates your faucet. This is your faucet. Single handle, open, closed, hot left, cold right. Pretty standard. That's your domestic system. That's all you need to know. The process water. Still fairly simple, but a little more complicated because it's the entire system. This is the main shut off for the entire system. Chances are you will never have to use this, and if you do, it's catastrophic. So this isolates the pumps or any of the pump water. So you don't want to shut this down unless you know for sure that your pumps are isolated, or else you're going to be building pressure with your pumps going on. This is your pressure relief valve. So if by chance you have the skid and your bypass valves shut off, this will only allow you to build up to 120 psi. Just like the relief valve on that chlorine dosing system, Once it reaches 120 psi, it's going to dump to drain. Okay, so it's just a safety valve. Carries on through. You get your chlorine injection inside the room. You got your flow meter and a static mixer. Again, just two pieces of equipment that allow for proper flow of the chlorine. This is your second sample port. This is the one that's going to be reading just downstream of your chlorine. You've got analog pressure gauge. You've got upstream of your filter skid. This is another pressure transmitter downstream of your filter skid. So that'll measure your pressure differential on the skid. That relays back to your PLC and that kind of stuff, I'd imagine. Carries through. These are your valve open to allow water into the skid. This is out of the skid. So under normal operation, when your filters are operating, this will be open, this will be open, this one will be closed. If for any reason you have an issue with these, you would isolate these, so you shut off these two handles, right? They all have locks, so you just pull and close. Let go and lock back in that position. See, that was just it dumping because it built up too much pressure. Okay, so you isolate these, open this, now you're still getting your chlorine injection up to your reservoir, you're just not filtering anymore. So, these stay open, this closed, unless your filters are down, then you close these, open this one. Another sample port, this will probably be the one that you guys are reading most often. So that's the one downstream of your filter, so you're measuring your chlorine, and you're basically your outgoing water samples there. This is your backwash system, which the man from ATEC already went over, how all this stuff operates. And then you've got another sample port here, just in case you need to take a sample of what it is that you're pumping in there. Mind you, this, you will not have pressure on it, because it's going to be open to atmosphere as soon as this is discharging anything. It's probably not going to flow that well out of here, but it is what it is. And
air compressor is just standard off-the-shelf air compressor?
Yes. Plugs into the wall. Switch down here, on, off. Disconnect. Behind our electrician's leg here. Just your standard airline quick disconnects. In case you have an issue with this, need to replace it. Shut it off, unplug it, disconnect. Put your new one in, reconnect it. Just your 1/4-inch airline quick connects. More airline, like the man from ATEC said, you won't have an issue with this ever wearing out, but if there ever is an issue, just push this green tab in, pull your hose out, replace if you don't have enough hose left over to quickly trim a little bit off. Just replace it, quickly push it back in. Pretty straightforward.
Fans, louvers?
Fans, louvers, on, off. It's all controlled by the PLC. There is a manual override, which I'm not sure how this works. The electrician will probably have more of an idea, but you've got intake and exhaust in each one of the rooms. Intake's the small louvers, exhaust fan. Okay, when this turns on, when this opens, fans on, that should be opening as well. There's an issue whether the motor on the operator isn't working, or there's an electrical problem. Something like that. Same thing in here. Yeah. Or something's worn out, motor's burnt up, something like that. Again, same thing here. You've got exhaust, and then you've got intake. Same thing. They're all exact same pieces of equipment. So when this turns on, that'll open, this will open, airflow. And then you've got another set inside the chlorine room as well. There's a 4-inch duct that runs down to the floor. Chlorine gases are heavier than air, so it'll sit down at the floor, which is dangerous. So it's got a duct coming down to the floor, so it'll actually exhaust any chlorine gas that build up in that room. And then outside. What's inside here? If we didn't go over this Belimo stuff, it would have been 30 seconds quicker. So.
Almost 10 minutes.
10 minutes? I didn't have any practice. I didn't.